Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, I see some people just joined the stream. We'll be going here very shortly. I'll be starting right at 7 promptly. And I cannot wait to show off rotations to you guys and gals. Hello, I see some people just joined the stream. And non-binary folks. I'll be starting right at 7. Hello, hello. All right. I'm going to do a quick sound check. If anyone out there in the chat could verify for me that you can hear these sounds and that the levels of my voice relative to the sounds is good. Hello, hello. I'm trying to talk over the music right now. How does that sound? Are those levels correct? All right, it's 7, so let's go. All right, everybody. I'm Spruke, and I'm the author of Music to Die Alone in Space 2, which is a pretty unprecedented Kickstarter. It's an album about an astronaut who's been cut adrift, sent flying from their spaceship out in the void, and they have an hour to reflect musically on what's happening to them before they run out of air. And it's pretty unprecedented in that I am recording the album individually for every single backer of the Kickstarter. So I have 310 total copies of this album to make, which I'm going track by track, and for each track, cranking out 310 copies of that track, 310 copies of the next track. And one of the things that's the most satisfying about it is that I combine a little bit of manual oversight along with a little bit of non-determinism. So every track that I've done so far, I've shown off some ways in which I manually play with the settings between renders of the track and ways that I let the track govern its own settings. And I'll show those off here. So the first thing I'd like to do is just take us on a really basic run through rotations so we can hear what we're working with. So rotations is the third track on the album, and I'm going to play one now so we can all hear just basically what it's like. Turtlewitz from the chat says, words can't describe how bummed I am to have missed the window on this. I do have good news for you. It's somewhat unofficial, but there's been a couple of Kickstarter backers who never paid or seem unlikely to pay, so I may have some extra copies at the end. I think that I may only have about 300 of the 310 accounted for, and I could probably, if someone never shows up to claim theirs, part with it. Okay, but for those of you who are just joining, we're currently hearing Rotations, the third track off Music to Die Alone in Space 2. We're all listening to it together, and then I'm going to show you what elements go into making it. And how's the sound out there? Everything sound crisp? Gosh, I love that track. Alright, so let's go through a bit of high hiss. Maybe it's Mike Bleed. That's very possible. Let me know if it gets unbearable at any point. I'm trying to keep it to a minimum. But without further ado, let's take a tour through the track. So, pretty much this is a two halves track. There's the first half, which is made of individual pings that focus very heavily on the rotating element. And then there's the second half, which is actually not that different than a deep house or a trance track, albeit very bare bones, very minimal. So the fundamental idea of the first half of the track is that this astronaut who's floating has been given a little bit of rotational momentum as well as kinetic momentum. So yes, you're stuck moving through space, but also, unfortunately, you're spinning like head over feet a little while you go. And, you know, according to the laws of physics, you're going to be stuck spinning that way forever. So I like to imagine that this little astronaut is spinning and there's a sun or something in your field of vision. And so each time you spin, you see it come by because you're rotating, and then you're facing away from it, and then you see it come by again. And the way I've reflected that, and I know you guys don't have stereo out there through Twitch, is that every time you hear a ping, there's all this reverb around it, and the reverb is constantly moving around your head like this. All right? And I'll show off how I did that. So first, let's check out the ping. The ping is a very basic element. So here we've got some pings, and just a single ping it has a big impact. If I make one ping, you hear it over and over again. Here, I'll drop one in. Boo, boo, boo. So there's so much delay on that. There's a ton of reverb on those guys. They just go. And over here we can see left channel, right channel. I'll bring that into view in a moment. So I'm gonna just solo the pings themselves. They sound like this. That's nothing new. That's this instrument. Sometimes between renders, I'll change up this instrument. Like, let's make it a little more synthy. Okay, now it sounds like that. Pretty cool, right? Now, here's what just the echo and reverb of the pings sounds like. all that is just you hear the ping, and then this happens after it. Now, here's the real trick. This third channel is that same last reverb you're hearing, but pulsing through the left ear and then the right at a rate that makes it sound like it's going around your head. And once again, I apologize, I know you guys don't have stereo out there, but here's what that sounds like. And you can actually watch it happen here. Left channel, right channel. Left channel, right channel. Left channel, right channel. And here is the LFO that's controlling them. This is the strength of the left channel signal. This is the strength of the right. So every ping we hear, you hear that ping, the ping is put through dry, there's all this reverb that comes off of it. The reverb you hear circling around the head according to this pattern. And that fundamentally defines the first half of the track. Now there's one other cool thing. There's a random ingredient in the reverb. There's a formant filter where there's a bit of a voice. So all these you're hearing, it's being shaped to sound a little bit more like an A, I, or O at any given time. And I'll show you where that is. So that's right here. I'm going to manually move it to show you the differences in sound. Once again. And there's even a gender control here, which can give it a more masculine mouth quality. Or a more feminine mouth quality. But I'll tell you what. I'm going to leave that gender setting right in the middle, which is already where I like it anyway. Okay. Enough jokes about that. So that's one big source of non-determinism, is that when I do 2 consecutive renders of this, the quality of the echoes as it moves through the different vowel sounds and gets the gender knob waves back and forth, all that's being moved around randomly by other pulsing LFOs, and it'll be a little different between runs. So hopefully in the degraded quality from Twitch, I hope you guys can still hear this, but just imperceptibly, let's say the measure 11 of your render of rotations from your copy might have this quality. Okay, and now here's just another copy. I haven't changed a thing. The tiniest differences. I love them. And so that does a lot of the heavy lifting for me, which is really cool. Now, as this huge arpeggios play and we keep hearing all these rotations come and go, a new sound begins to come in. And that is a synth line that's actually like a pretty traditional synth line, and it plays a pattern that goes do 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 no 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 no, like so. Now, one of the things I've got on this is an easily randomizable pattern looper so that it puts the emphasis on a different syllable of the bass line every time. So here it is straight with no changes. All I have to do is hit the randomize button. And it has a whole new rhythmic quality. Yes, I am recording this. I'll be exporting it to YouTube after we're done. So yes, I'll be putting this on YouTube. Now let's hear another kind. And let's hear one more. Cool. So, there's the variance in that. And that's not changing the fact that, as you've seen in previous renders, about every half a dozen renders, I'm just going to change the patch and redesign the synth sound entirely. So I'm alternating runs where I let the random numbers do their work with runs where I let me do the work manually. Okay, so that's that instrument. Now, that begins to gradually overtake the rotations, and you hear the gentlest kick drum come in, and it's actually got a little synth to play with. So I had a rule for myself on this album. No percussion. The way I looked at it, I'm trying to make a very visceral experience, one that sounds really unique, and if I started having snares and hi-hats, I'm trying to do this really pure thing out in space. Everything should sound like it could be the sound of a nebula or twinkling stars. So the only percussion I'm allowed is kick drums that sound like heartbeats. Just thump, thump, thump. I don't think that anything in your suit gets to go boom, clap, boom, clap. So I did wind up cheating a lot, though, by using the gentle synth sounds of what I thought could be construed as synth beeps. And so I don't get hi-hats, but I get this. Let's see. Here. Right here. Oops. This is one. And you combine that with a nice little bass line. Cool. So there's no non-determinism. There's actually really never any changes to that line. This is all doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It does the same thing every run through, every execution. And then finally, my favorite moment on the entire album. My favorite moment on the entire album of Music to Die Alone in Space 2 is this one moment at the end of rotations where we've been going with this nice, really groovy feeling, and a chord progression comes in that you only hear once. And it's not one of the themes on the album. It's not one of the album's recurring musical motifs. You just hear it, and then it's gone, and it's unfinished. And the chord progression sings, do, 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 do. And then it fades away, and that's it. And then the song is over. So I really love that. I'm going to play that now. That's actually all we ever hear from that guy. Then you go through 2 more loops of this, and the song is over. As a matter of fact, I'm really a big fan of this one. I want to show off what it's made of. So, we're in the key of C sharp. So, if you're reading this, read it as though C sharp is the root note. And here's how that looks. C sharp. no indeterminism in that. That's something that's also the same every run. But I just like to change up the patch, and so far I'm about 160 renders in, and I've approached that a number of different ways, honestly. I've done ones where it's pretty noticeable, but I think it's actually on the, possibly on the Tsuki no Usagi mix of the album. I went with one that was almost undetectable, where it's like a quiet hum, and just very, like, not even there. Anyway, so that's been a tour of rotations. All that said and done, let's try a couple, right? So the first thing I'm going to do to generate a new one is scramble my bass patch. And I'm actually about done with this bass sound because I've heard it so many times. So I'm just going to get a new one going. Let's switch from being a saw wave to a square wave. Okay, that's a nice twist. Okay, and I've got a new pulsing pattern. And then let's play with our ping. Let's make one of the synths that goes with our ping a noise synth. That'll be fun. I've done that a few times now. Okay. All that gives us enough ammo for another run. And let's generate rotations A170. There's just so much pulsing already. then in this track, there's about 20 seconds of dead space at the end because I have to give this much time for all the delay to finish. You can see it's actually still making sound. And I wanted this to ring out on your copy of the album when I piece it all together. I want the sounds of the last note from Rotations to be echoing long into Uncertainty Principle, which comes after it on the album. So that said, let's get ready for 171. I really liked the pings. Those were in a good place. Let's generate a new throbbing pattern for the bass line. And then I thought those chords, they were pretty explicit last time. Like, they were pretty, like, hey, do you notice me? And I feel like let's try a more subtle approach this time. So I'm going to route them all through a filter. Let's see, get you here. Let's get another filter on it, and we'll make something that's a little more restrained of an approach. I like that. Cool. That's going to make for a couple nice renders. Okay, and then the last thing is the bass is a little hissy. So I'm going to decrease the extent to which this parameter is allowed to drive the filter. So right now it's only allowed to drive it about halfway of the available space. I'm going to say it can only drive it about a third of the available space. Okay, all that is enough changes to bring us through to another render. Let's make Rotations 171. success. Okay, well that finishes. Scramble this. Change you from a square to a sign. Change you from ambient chord to... I'm just gonna go with some noise. And let's mess with that ping again. Alright, so that ping, I'm satisfied with the amount of work it's done. Let me hear a couple different kinds of pings I can play with. Here's where the pings live, is right in here, so let's get this going on a loop. Play with the filter. I can play with... Oh, that's cool. That's a little calliope-like. That's synths 1 and 2. What about the contents of synth 3? What do you sound like? You know, key 3, synth 3, you're not making a lot of, Okay, so there we go. Now let's mix all 3 of those pieces together, and we're gonna have a pretty intense ping. Okay? So we've got our new ping, we've got our new bass patch. We'll let the chord patch from last time ride. And I'm going to begin the export of 172 as soon as these echoes fade. Otherwise, I've accidentally got the echoes from guy 171. Yes, thank you, Mr. Gel. That was getting some FM in there from Reason. I was very happy about that. Okay. Once these echoes fade, I'm going to start 172, and then I'm going to make myself a T while that renders. So I'll be right back. Okay, I gotta stick around to see how these sound. Then I'm gonna make myself a T. Get out your Yamaha DX7 from 1986 right here, huh? part of the reason I'm having a lot of fun rendering Rotations is just that it's probably my favorite track on the album. I really like that moment with the chords at the end. I really like the pacing of it in particular. I think it's a track that one of the things I really tried to get right on this album. I mean, I listen to a lot of EDM. Most of you probably know me from Bump in the Night and my DJ casting. And so I'm very used to impatient music that goes build, drop, and it's can never take its time getting anywhere. And one thing I really wanted to do with this album in a lot of ways is make an album that fundamentally understood how to take its time. And it doesn't mean I did a great job everywhere on the album, but here in particular, I think the thing I like about Rotations is it seems like it takes just about the right amount of time to do what it is it does. So I've got a new bass line. That's definitely cool. Alright, and now I'm going to change up my reverb algorithm. Let's go with something that will make it a much faster reverb. Okay. It's still going to get run through the same mouth working effect though. And then let's make this pad at the end even softer. And all that put together. Wait for these tails to go away. Okay. That's enough changes. Let's hear Rotations 173. Y'all can tell this song is really chilling me out and helping me relax, because I'm totally doing like guided meditation voice. Let's all get into a real good place and imagine that we're spinning. One note that's suddenly very harsh. And that's part of the randomness right there. Sometimes you get one prominent note. And so that's fundamentally how this track works. take things... Ooh, that's a very different pattern, so that's going to be cool. For the next one, let's see what happens if we put our pings through a little bit of a distortion. And so this is something that's been happening a lot as I've been working, and I have to make the same track 310 times. I start to get a little more daring and play with a few things, right? So I would never, when I was first designing this track, have thought to myself, you know, this gentle first half would sound really nice if it was run through a guitar amp. But somewhere 180 variations along the line, you start trying things like that, and it results in some people having really unique copies, honestly. So let me try and get that ping sound just right. Okay, that's not good. I just gotta run it through gentle tube distortion. Going on. Let's take a little bit of distortion. Okay. Whoever gets this one as their copy is going to be surprised. It's a very, very different rotations. He said, as he excruciatingly waited for the delay tails to finish. There. Oh, dang it. Okay, there. Alright, you know what? The delay tails are just never really finished. Rotations 174, aka the unexpectedly kind of distorty copy. Holy cow. That first note, that's the note you hear in a late 80s film that says the Terminator is after you. If this was a different album, right here it starts going boom, 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 boom. And the motorcycle chase scene is beginning. was a big fan of that render, and so was 6-string Dealy. I just agree. It was sounding really nice. Okay, let's turn our attentions to something that hasn't been tweaked since I started, which is the bass. Now, the bass doesn't have a very explicit job to do in this track. It's just got to take things gently. But all the same, in the course of 310 renders, I've got to mess with everything. So here's the kick and bass interplay. Pretty basic. So what do I got? You're the bass right here. Sizzling wobbler. You've got some different instruments going on. There's some FMs, huh? Let's give those more growl. Okay, that's enough of a change for now. Cool. Now the next thing I haven't really changed in a little is those chords. Those have been the same for a few renders, so let's take another approach. Okay, I want to go for a thing for a few renders. Let's get this for about 5 or 6 renders. Let's get kind of a theremin thing going on, where it's like woo, like a classic sci-fi film a little. And to do that, I'm gonna get some more randomness. The extent over here to which LFO1 modulates OSC1 and 2's pitch. Okay, a little slower, please. That's kind of cheesy. Then I want to make them an octave higher. Okay. That's really cool! That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay. All that. Let's scramble us up a new bass line. Leave the pings unchanged. Those are in a good place right now. And ladies and gentlemen, and people of other indeterminate genders, let's go for rotations 175. gosh, that was nice. Okay, now I know what you're all thinking. Certainly, that was all fun to distort the pings, but how come you're not distorting this this main synth? It would sound so much like, you know, a really good guitar line, honestly. Well, that's a really good question, you know? Why am I not distorting that? Let's throw that thing through a pretty typical guitar amp-like setup. So I'm gonna run U through a combinator. Nope. I'm gonna run U through a line 6 bass amp. Yeah, that's the stuff right there. Okay, let's load up some bass amp patches to hear some different ways we can make this guy sound. Not in love with this, but it'll work for one render. I think I need to change this away from being the ghost chord. Change up these FM parameters again. We've got a new render. You know, let's change the space it's playing into. I actually am not a fan of having this too much reverb, so I'm going to switch this back to a much narrower reverb. Let's go with car interior. That sounds simple enough. Let's turn the high frequency damp way up. So now that that moving mouth vowel sound will be happening in a much narrower space. It was getting really expansive before. You can even tell that the echoes actually die out this time, rather than continuing for minutes. Okay. Rotations, 176. folder where I'm storing all my renders is 105 gigabytes of WAV file data. And I just did the math. WAV audio data is about 10 megabytes to the minute. It all works out that there's 175 hours of audio in this folder. There are 172 hours in a week. No, I'm wrong. There are 168 hours in a week. So I have literally been sitting here listening to Music to Die Alone Space 2 sounds for over an entire week of solid time without stopping to sleep or eat or leave the computer. That's something. 180 renders in and I'm still finding new ways for the tracks to sound. That was nothing like other rotations. I mean, in a lot of ways it's the same song, but it has this whole new alien feeling to it, honestly. That last section I felt was very much, it felt like I was trying to translate from an alien language. And I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but that kind of makes total sense to me. Maybe that's why, I don't know, maybe that's because I'm an artist, or that's the kind of thing I could say, but we're in a really good place right now, so I'm going to keep rolling with it without making too many changes. I'm going to scramble the bass lines pattern, and I'm going to play with the FM settings just a bit more, because I really like this 80s space we're playing around in. As a matter of fact, let's make all of these synths FMs right now. So FME. Okay, we're in a really good place with all that. Kill these echoes. Here goes rotations 177. frequencies that can kind of forget how to pitch. And that's kind of happening here. But I like it. Some buzz on these echoes, which I like. It's a little agitating, and I'm actually really into that. Okay, let's turn these away from these harsher patches and back into just sawtooths. I'll take this back in a more pure direction. And generate a new wave. And I'm going to turn these FMs down because I really did take it too far there for a bit. That was too much FM to actually work for a little there. Turn these filter settings up, and let's revisit this theremin style synth. It's been in there about 5 renders the same without changing, and that's usually about how long I like to let something go before I feel like people with consecutive render numbers would be like, our copies aren't very different. So let's hear it. Something I like to do sometimes, if I'm lacking in inspiration, which, believe it or not, can happen after this many copies, is pick a preset and then try and hear where I can imagine that, going. So pick something new, and almost always the presets are not anything that I like. Like, they're not in part of the Music to Die Alone in Space 2 ethos, because they have a fundamentally different sound at their heart. Like, they're trying to be something that a different person, like an EDM artist or a Kraftwerk or just somebody who's trying to make real music, would use. And so then I take that and change it back to my scene. So yeah, this is not a Music to Die Alone in Space 2 sound. So I hear this, but then this is inspiration to say what is. Let's start morphing this. That's it right there. That's the stuff. Cool. I think I'm gonna just lose it when that section hits this time. Waiting for the echoes to finish, and then we're gonna begin render number 178. So when did I start this session? At 170. So you guys have heard 9 renders so far. This is a pretty good pace to clear about 10 renders an hour. And if I can do that, then it's only about 31 hours to the track, which is something I can do in a single weekend. Sometimes I can do them while also playing Hearthstone. Sometimes I try to do them while playing Heroes of the Storm, but that doesn't work out too well. Or I do them while reading. I do them while writing code. Write a little code, let this run for 3 or 4 minutes. And then when I hear it finish, take a break, make a change, and then get back into the code. It's a lot of context switching, and so it's not always welcome for that reason. There's really who wants to context switch that much. But I get by. just kind of, without any syncopation and just hitting on the quarter notes. That's sort of fun. something that I haven't done yet in any of the renders so far. I think it's time to start messing with the little beep that provides a percussive element and is kind of a substitute for a hi-hat alongside the kick. And I'm going to call in a plugin that has just completely been my homeboy this entire album. It has been there for me through thick and thin. So just to refresh your memories, we're talking about this sound. And we're going to need none other than Automaton, which, if you might remember from the last stream I did, is a plugin that plays the game of life. And when a live cell is over a certain trigger, triggers that effect. Okay, so first let me crank this way up, because I know y'all probably can't even hear. There. So y'all can hear that for now? Okay. So, let's start playing Game of Life. Okay. And every time it hits the blue, it's going to trigger stutter editing. Greens will trigger that. Reds trigger distortion. And oranges, which I don't want to use too much of, trigger bit crush. And so you can't predict how the game of life goes. Everyone knows that. I just want to be clear. We are talking about Conway's Game of Life, the popular computer science simulation. I'm not referring to the Milton Bradley, The Game of Life, where it's simulating this by moving a little car with a family in it through a bunch of spaces that represent different careers. Although I would also be interested in buying that plugin, I'll be honest. Okay, so that's gonna mix that up. Now, to turn the volume back down, because they're not supposed to be that loud in the mix. I was just turning it up so we could all hear the things I was doing to it. Okay, so that's that. We'll see if that even winds up being a thing. And you know what, actually, given where those were, I also want to hear a little more reverb on them. I'd like to hear them echo, so they're going beep, ha, beep, ha. I want to hear them beeping like they're out in the void. So I'll get that on there. So this is the Glaceverb plugin. It's probably my single favorite reverb. And I'm a sucker for the one preset called Glaceverb. So let's hear that. How do you sound now? Oh, you hear all those delicious sonar pings? This is Sputnik action right here. This is just... I might as well sample Sputnik. Okay, that's all in a really good place. Last thing, let me mute the bass for this render so that it's not so noticeable. I just want it to have to do more work to be buzzy. Okay, that's everything. Oh, I'm excited to hear this one. Here goes, guys. Rotations 179. didn't use any kind of a string plugin. Those are sawtooth waves. So that was a completely synthesized sound, but it really comes out sounding a lot like it could be the bridge into a Jamiroquai. And I'm just not that satisfied with that, because I really do try very hard in this album to avoid things that are reminiscent of real-world sounds. I want the entire thing to sound very otherworldly, very alien, very synthetic. And so I'm just pretty dissatisfied at how much like disco strings that sounds. So I'm gonna do a little bit of synth design right here just to get that away from that for a second. So I think the staccato is an element of it, that it's like na na na, which is a lot like how, you know, some Jackson 5 strings would descend. And I'm gonna kind of get rid of that by making it a longer envelope. And then I think if I change them to squares instead of saws, that'll get right out. And so let's hear that. Honestly, a much better place. And I'm really gonna have to turn down this glace verb. It didn't have the effect I intended at all once it was all in the mix. That's kind of a big part of the fun of this whole project, is just the constant discovery, trying something for each render and being like, did it work yet? Am I in a new and exciting place yet? So I'm gonna make this track much louder. Come on, guys, let's make that louder. And see if that kicks in or that has any effect. Let's generate a new bass pattern. And let's change up our amp model, actually, for the one. So we had a lot of fun running the ping through a distortion amp. I'm going to do that again. Okay. Maybe the era of FM is gradually ending. I'm going to turn all the FMs down. And I'm going to scramble their numbers. Not that I really understand those. They just stand in for cards. But let's change up the amp model. We'll go with a lo-fi. Okay, that's really cool. We're gonna roll with this for one number. He said, as he waited for the echoes to fade, to fade, to fade, to fade. So what are people playing in Hearthstone these days, eh? I've been on Patron Warrior myself. Patron Warrior, a little Cthulhu Priest. I haven't found a Hunter deck I like yet. Okay. Small talk waiting for these to fade. But seriously though, you can all tell me about your Hearthstone decks. Okay, here goes 180. This is officially the lo-fi, low bitrate version of Rotations. We'll run this for a few renders. a little fun with it and screw with the knobs while it's playing. Really cool. I liked the whole execution of that one. Alright, let's get these pings more subtle. There's only a little bit left in the stream, so I think we'll be able to get through maybe 2 more copies or so. We have until 9. And then I will be taking me and my lovely spouse out for some tacos, I believe, which are apparently in vogue in a day like today. And in a moment, I will flood the chat room with taco emoji. But right now, I'm working. Right, that works. That gender knob right where I like it, right in the middle. Yeah, alright. Let's, against my better judgment and against all my personal political beliefs, make an incredibly masculine render. Put that all the way to the masculine side so everything gets the masculine throat modeling. Okay, that's actually really cool. notes are kind of like incorrect. So I wonder if I've got the FM settings in just the right place where it can't synth this particular note. Like these are all hitting harmonics. really liked that render a lot. Not much else to say about it other than that. I think I'll end it on one more. So let's make this one the last one of the night. Let's make it a good one. Let's edit that a little manually. Let's make this render heavily female on the gender. And remember, that's just the gender of that whole all those that reverb that's floating around. That has to do with the throat modeling and the shape it's gonna take. So let's see, I've got that. Yup. And let's just mess once more with this guy. What's your deal? This might be nice. This might be nice. Okay, that's in a pretty chill place. That's in a pretty chill place. Let's take off some of that distortion. Let's get rid of some of this distortion because I've about had my fill of it. And where are we at now on those pings? Okay, yeah, this is all in a really good spot. This'll, as soon as I wait for these to die, these echoes, we'll hear rotations 182. I tell you, sometimes I think the difference between the masculine and feminine formant modeling on that Thor synth that's doing the formant throat modeling. I don't know if it's based on any kind of science or if they just needed a third name for a parameter after like shape and width, as be like, okay, yeah, let's do another one, let's do gender or something. It can't be based in any kind of actual science, I would imagine. I don't really know what goes into formant modeling in a lot of ways, which is upsetting to me because I know how most other kinds of audio technology work. Like, I understand how to do fast Fourier transforms and EQs and stuff. Formant's beyond me. The only time I can really ever tell and say, like, yeah, that sounds masculine or feminine is when I'm putting them on, like, dubstep bass lines, and you get that thing where you're putting a formant on a bass line and making it go, like a Skrillex bass line or something, and then you're like, okay, that kind of sounds like a lower throaty one versus a gentler feminine one. All right, he's babbling. That's okay. Once in a while I'll distort things so much for render after render that I take it all away and I realize how gentle the sounds that I've built behind the distortion really are. I mean, this guy, this synth is just, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. You almost can't hear those higher notes. They're just above the filter range. And that's cool for a change. Another neat side effect is now that everything else isn't stepping on it, I could totally hear all those effects that I couldn't hear before with the Game of Life glitching things. Is anybody else, for no particular reason I can think of, reminded of You Only Get What You Give by the New Radicals? I'm just heading back into that music video right now, where the dudes go around the mall and let all the animals out of the cages and put the people in the cages and let the animals run free. So 90s insightful. Alright, so it's just about 9 p.m., which will take us up through the end of our stream. Gonna be going out and getting me some tacos. Let's end it there. I'll be exporting this to YouTube, so if you want to relive through it. Also, I have similar videos. If you are just seeing this one and you haven't seen earlier ones, there's ones on my YouTube showing how I render absolute zeros. There's ones on my YouTube showing how I render neutrinos, and a couple other ones too. So I'm gonna go probably quiet on the Kickstarter front for a little while I just finish the remaining 150 copies of rotations that I need to render. You saw 13 here, so imagine about 12x that total number of work to get to the end of it. And then I'll be back again with another update saying when I've finished all the rotations, and I'll probably have you guys in for a session to watch how another track is done, and I'll take nominations if any of the ones that are left. If anyone wants to say, you know, I wish I could see how you make voids or how you make tides or something else. So with that, I'll call it a stream for now. Thank you everybody for attending. Spruke out.